EU leaders are poised to approve Ukraine's candidate status today in a hugely symbolic move that puts the war-torn country on its path towards EU membership. 27 heads of states are gathered in Brussels for the start of a two-day summit. The bloc is expected to vote in favour of candidate status for both Ukraine and neighbouring Moldova. The decision comes nearly 4 months to the day since Russia launched its invasion. In a show of solidarity with Kyiv, Brussels has accelerated its application process, which usually takes several years. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says that Ukraine's people have given their lives for the European cause. Well, for more, let's now go live to the summit where Shona Murray is standing by. So, Shona, what's the latest where you are? Any signs that this green light is coming?
Well, we know that is inevitable, but there is something of a rupture, I think, in the discussions amongst the 27 member states. For example, some countries, Croatia, Austria, Slovenia, are calling for Bosnia to be added as a member, or a candidate member, potentially. They say this is important as well. I'm joined now by Philippe Bombert, who's head of the Greens group. He's an MEP. Philippe, talk us through the importance of why Bosnia is being added at the last minute at this summit.
Well, some member states like Austria have always fought for Bosnia to be part of the exercise, so this is not totally new. Why are we doing that? Now, the Western Balkans are geographically in the midst of the European Union. It is a place where Russia is meddling on a regular basis and fostering division and instability. We want to secure the stability of that zone because ultimately these states will be members of the European Union. Now, if you recognize candidate status to Ukraine and Moldova, and you have these other member states, well, these other states who have been waiting in line for for decades literally, and you don't give them candidate status, basically the signal that you send is actually maybe you will never be a member state. And that would be highly, highly corrosive. Because believe me, in Sarajevo, many people believe that they will never be part of the European Union.
Are you saying the risk then is that they move towards Russia, the
Absolutely.
Russian perspective? Is that something that's potentially happening?
Exactly. And well, you know that the Dayton Peace Accords in Bosnia were very fragile, that actually the country was never reunited, that the Serbian part of Bosnia-Herzegovina is funded by Russia and is really fostering division. I mean, you don't want to let that happen, and so you need to give the Bosnians a perspective that, yes, they are someday be part of the European Union.
The interesting thing, though, Philippe, is that these things are already sorted out ahead of a summit. Why is this coming onto the table now? It wasn't really, I mean, for example, there's a bit of a rupture in the discussions. We were expected to have the green light for Ukraine and Moldova hours ago.
Yes, we will have a red light for Ukraine and Moldova, but indeed the most contentious parts of the discussion are kept for the summits. I mean, you can only solve so many problems at staff level. Now, it is for the heads of states and governments to make the difficult decisions. And indeed, I'm not surprised that the case of Bosnia was kept for the Council. And it's a legitimate discussion.
If you look at, I suppose, what you're saying there, some countries and the fear of the Russian perspective, is there a fear that incorporating those countries into the EU may cause more blockages in the future? I mean, I'm looking at Hungary, for example.
Well, anyway, we have the problem already with these potential new member states who will become members maybe in 10 years' time. Now, so the only answer to that is that we have to abolish the unanimity rule in the areas where there's still unanimity required. And guess what? This is a proposal of the Conference of the Future of Europe. And we would like the heads of states and governments to take due notice to that and convene a convention to prepare a treaty change to that extent. But I feel that there's not a lot of warmth towards that. But that's the only answer. That's the only answer. And if you wanted to avoid that, you should have done that already well before the big enlargement in the early notice. So I'm sorry to say we have that problem. We need to solve it. And it's not adding a few member states that will materially change the problem that we have. Okay. Because, by the way, even if you look at tax matters, take the 6 founding states. You have there 3 big economies and 3 tax havens. You couldn't have unanimity between those 6 on taxation matters. You could have a qualified majority, but you could not have It's impossible because the tax havens will defend their actions tooth and nail. So even within the 6 founding states, you have already the problem. So, I mean, yes, you may say it compounds the problem, but I mean, the only answer to that is abolish unanimity.
And that's another big question for another summit. But Philippe Lambert, head of the Greens Group, MEP, Belgian MEP, thank you very much for joining us. And back to you in studio, Mariam.
OK, Shania, thanks. The latest from the summit and those ongoing deliberations. Thanks so much. Well, we're now joined from Western Ukraine by Inna Sovsan, member of the Ukrainian Parliament. Ms. Sovsan, thanks so much for joining us on the programme tonight. So this is a big decision, a historical decision awaiting your country. What's the mood like where you are?
Well, we're all waiting. Trust me, I'm following the social media. I'm talking to my friends, and everybody is just sitting there and waiting, like, you know, I can't even explain how that feels. Maybe the football fans will understand that, like them waiting for the result of their favorite football game or something. This is this general feeling of everybody's just waiting for the result. Everybody's just waiting for seeing that we are welcome in the European Union. This is seen largely as a symbolic move by the Ukrainians. We understand that this does not automatically means that we will become EU member states right away, but it's extremely important for us on a symbolic level to know that what we are fighting for is appreciated, and that after all we are part of the European family and we are welcome there. But then also there is a geopolitical level to this. We need to show to Putin that he has no claim to say that he has no right to say that this is part of the Russian world or whatever it is. He needs to be, to make clear that this is where Ukraine belongs. Ukraine belongs to the European Union. That is the choice that Ukrainian people made, and he has no business meddling in our affairs. So there is this emotional and symbolic level, but then there is also geopolitical dimension, which we also understand and we are fully aware, and that is why we are also waiting for the final decision. So very. So very much.
Yeah, indeed. We're all waiting for that. So let's talk about Ukraine itself. What's its value? What can it bring to the European family?
That's a great question, actually, because I think that there is now a perception of Ukraine as just a country that will bring in problems, but it's not so. I mean, of course, right now we are at war, which we didn't provoke. We did nothing to make it happen. So it's not our fault. But there are many things that Ukraine can actually offer to the European Union. Give energy markets. We are a huge producer of electricity. We still have a well-functioning nuclear power plants which can provide electricity to the European Union. We are, of course, a huge agricultural country which can, produce lots of agricultural produce of very high quality to the European market. We have a highly educated population. I myself am a university professor. I know hundreds of my students who went to study abroad, who came back to Ukraine, or who are now working in Brussels and in other European capitals. We are rather, moderate politically, so we shall not be a country that will bring some radical shifts. So I think all of that is making Ukraine an asset to the European Union. But of course, for that, the primary issue would be to win this war, and then we can get back to rebuilding our country and making it an asset to the European Union, as I believe we can be.
You bring up the war, so. Obviously, this kind of status, as we've been saying, it's symbolic, and actual membership for Ukraine could take years to come. So with the war going on, can Ukraine really afford to wait for that membership?
Well, I'm trying to be realistic about that. I understand that there is something that we can be doing, and we are doing in order to get closer to the standards, to the criteria that we need to meet. I'll give you an example of something that is very close to my heart. Is the gender equality, the issues of equality in the society. Just 2 days ago, Ukrainian Parliament finally, after 11 years, ratified the Istanbul Convention, which is aimed at protecting women and other victims of domestic violence. And that was a huge move, and that was something that Ukraine was debating for years, and then suddenly it happened. For me, being part of this debate again for years before, seeing that actually happening right in front of my eyes, me being part of that, was a huge move. So there are things that we can do while we are at war. But then, of course, there are many things that will have to wait for the reconstruction, for this more stability, both political and then military, in order to achieve those things.